Jersey. We're back here with St. Jersey. Great guest once again, Congressman SCOTT GARRETT, who just gave another rousing speech, as of many of the rousing speech, but yours was especially great. Congressman GARRETT, welcome back to St. Jersey.
Good to be back with you, thanks.
Congressman,
Yes, sir.
you always give wonderful speeches, and you're well versed in you don't sell yourself short.
Okay.
You're one of the leaders in the Republican Study Committee. You're one of the upcoming leaders in the House. But you spoke a little bit about the Constitution. Just give the St. Jersey readership and the viewership a little overview of what you were talking about.
To you?
And to the viewership, everyone here.
So, well, first of all, I can go back 10 seconds on this to just let them know. One of the main reasons that I ran for Congress in the first place was to remind Congress that they had exceeded their authority in the past, right? And so to that end, I established several years back the Constitutional Caucus. For the first time ever, we have a caucus in the House of Representatives, which has as its goal to inform the members and the public as well as to what the Constitution says and what are the proper roles of the federal government, which goes to one of my points during the remarks today. And so the comments that we were talking about today is that this administration has exceeded the Constitution on so many different levels and in so many different ways, and I can run down them if you like. And that they are taking part in really an extension of the progressive movement that started literally 100 years ago here in New Jersey with Woodrow Wilson, right, as president. Woodrow Wilson rejected the Constitution. He rejected, as I mentioned, the preface to the Constitution, the fact of inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that has continued through the progressive movement over the years, over the decades, and we see it out of this administration as well.
Now, we've seen this sort of progressive movement persevere. Different movements come and go. Why do you think the progressive movement has sort of persevered throughout 100 years? We haven't, only recently has sort of this conservative uprising come over the last, only like 10 years. This Tea Party movement is only so young.
Yeah.
How has the progressive movement been so persistent in the last century?
You probably have to have a good political science professor give you a better answer to that, but since that's a pretty good question. I can think of one aspect of it to this, is that progressives in part say that elect me as a progressive and we will give you more government and more things. We will give you stuff for free, so to speak. And that's pretty hard for some people to turn away, being given something for free. So that ideology, if you will, has been fostered and encouraged over years because those people get reelected like me and I'll give you something for free. So that's why it perpetuates itself. And then the second part of your question is, well, how did it continue for so long?
Right.
Well, so long as the economy in the United States was growing so rapidly after World War II and the expansion and what have you, the economy is growing significantly. The revenue coming into the federal government is growing, I don't know whether it's exponentially, it's growing a lot. It meant that the federal government could continue to say, elect me, and I will give you this, that, the other thing, as a progressive would say. It's only now that we've sort of hit the wall. A lot of people talk about the cliff recently. We've actually hit the wall on this. We've hit the wall on spending. Over $6 trillion added to to spending by this administration alone. That finally, what's some other euphemism? The chickens have come home to roost. Limitations have come into place.
We go on today with the sort of expressions.
And so you can. So we've come to a limit on it.
You talk about the chickens come home to roost and that sort of thing. Yet, for so many years, a Republican Congress and Republican administrations have signed off on these sort of spending bills. You've been pretty persistent in saying no.
Right.
Along with some of your colleagues like Jeff Flake of Arizona, who's seeking a Senate seat in a close race. Your colleague, Jim DeMint of South Carolina, has been pretty consistent in the Senate. Yet, we've seen them, seen even Republicans, not just Democrats, Republicans, be big government Republicans. Right. You've had a pretty good rating with the American Conservatives. You've had pretty good 100% ratings, which like-minded conservatives would want to see.
Right.
How come we've never seen, and some other pundits and political philosophers have not seen, we've never really seen a Republican Congress, a conservative Congress. We've seen a conservative president in Ronald Reagan, but we've never really seen a conservative Congress. What's that going to take?
That's another good question. Let me think about that for a minute. For some of the economic reasons that I said in the past, that's why members from both sides of the aisle were able to take part in that idea of the government can grow bigger and just provide additional services, right?
Yeah.
So Republicans, the euphemism there is Republicans in name only about some of these people who did that. So that continued for a period of time. But we hit that wall, right? And so in the last election, in 2010 election, you had the sweeping out of a lot of people, a lot of moderates, I think actually from both sides of the aisle to some extent, right? And coming in a whole wave, 80 plus new freshmen. So that moved the dial, if you will, for the Republican conference over to the right, over to degree. Can't tell you how many degrees, but over to the right degree. So in the last vote, I'll give you one example. In the last vote that we had on the RSC budget, which I helped write, which is a conservative budget which actually balances in 5 years, we got, I think, about 122 votes, which would be the majority of the Republican conference. So the Republican conference has moved right, and we're seeing evidence of
But
it.
the president says you're a do-nothing Congress. You've done nothing.
Well, that's the
Is there any truth to that?
No, he also says that he's going to do a whole bunch of other things, and he never did those things. And he also said he's going to be bipartisan, and of course he's not. We've done a lot, not as much as some of us would like to do, but as much as we probably can, in the sense that the Senate right now is where all good bills go to die. Mm-hmm. So we may pass good bills that you and I and your viewers would like. If we pass them out of the House, they go to the Senate, and they just go in the inbox and die there. So he's talking about a do-nothing Congress in general. Maybe he's right. He has to focus his rhetoric, though, to where the real do-nothing aspect of it is, and that's in the Senate.
Aside from being the most conservative congressman in New Jersey,
Okay.
I mean, the record says there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You're also known as a financial expert. You're always on Fox Business with Hudo and other people as well.
Yep.
However, last month the Fed announced another round of quantitative easing. They're calling it QE3.
Right.
But the Philadelphia Federal Reserve president had said this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And then that day, last month, the Dow dropped.
Right.
Now we've had other people say, this really isn't going to work. This is going to work. What are your thoughts on QE3 as a whole?
Well, as a whole, in a short word, probably a disaster, and it's not going to do anything great except for create, more than one word, create additional problems down the road. Disaster, I guess, was the one word. It is going to create additional problems down the road. We're at this event right here as we're speaking, and one of the speakers was speaking about that QE3 is really just another name for creating inflation, which I have to steal that line because that's exactly what it is. They want to inject more money into the economy, drive prices up, inflation, and hopefully that solves the problem. But that's not going to solve it.
So if they're antiquated ideas, and they're ideas that haven't worked, why are they being used not once, not twice, but 3 times?
Yeah, well, I guess your next interview has to be Ben Bernanke. You can get him to sit here, then you'll be all set and ask that question.
Well, we've spoken to Jonah Goldberg, we've spoken to Michelle Malkin, Steve Lonigan, we've spoken to you. I mean, it's not out of reach.
There you go. Most people will say, that Chairman Ben Bernanke is an expert on the Depression. I'm not sure whether he did his doctoral thesis or something on that, but he knows the Depression well. He always seems to be making reference to that in some of his practices now. And so he has been looking back and trying to figure out how to go forward. And I guess that probably colors, if you will, his approach to resolution of this problem.
I just want to briefly touch on the election coming up here in the 5th District. Well, not here in the 5th District, but
over there
in the 5th District.
Okay.
You are my congressman. The University of Virginia Center for Politics has all the districts in New Jersey as relatively safe.
Oh.
You're in a very safe district. The only one that's really not in a very safe district is John Runyon, and he's next to safe. But nevertheless, do you have any concerns about going into the election? Nothing's safe until you're actually reelected. Any concerns, anything going in? I mean, you're running against Adam Goosen, the deputy mayor of Teaneck. You're in a pretty safe district, but there is more Democratic area in your territory, in your district this year.
So I think you answered the question with one line, that you're never safe until after the election. So if we interview again after the election, then I can tell you I'm safe, I just won. But I don't know whether that's going to happen. Things look good. In any election I've ever been in, what I've worked on, either for somebody else or for myself, you take absolutely nothing for granted. And so you're out there, you're meeting the people, listening to people. We do have a half a dozen new towns that in the district that you mentioned, a couple.
Teaneck, Fairlawn as an example.
Yeah, Hackensack, Lodi.
Hackensack, Lodi are pretty democratic towns.
Yeah, some of these are pretty democratic times. So we go in there, and I go in and talk to the people, listen to the people, hear what their concerns are. One of the interesting things about this, just 10 seconds, is that the concerns of somebody over in Hackensack are not a heck of a lot different on the federal level than the concerns of somebody in Hackettstown in Warren County. They're concerned about the economy, they're concerned about their job, keeping their job or getting a better job, or the fact that they don't have a job, concerned about just employment in general, concerned that the federal government is spending way too much money, more than it's taking in, and they're forced to live on their own little budget, but Washington doesn't have one. They're concerned about their kids, and the fact that their kids are going to be maybe growing up in a country that doesn't have as much opportunities as they did. So those are the same concerns here, there, elsewhere, and those are the issues that I've been fighting on for a long time.
And just by your example, you go to those towns,
Yeah.
you don't shy away,
Yeah.
you're not afraid to.
No, absolutely not. You go in, talk to the people, listen to the people, hear what the concerns are, and see what we can do to solve the problem.
Congressman Garrett, thanks for coming to St. Jersey once again. We look forward to having you anytime you'd like.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned to St. Jersey for so much more coverage. Thank you, Congressman.
That was great. Thanks. Well done.